At 53, starting from almost zero, can you still retire at 65? Yes, possibly, but not by pretending you have 40 years to compound your way out of the problem. You have 12. That changes the plan. A 53-year-old recently laid out a catch-up strategy that will sound familiar to a lot of people. He had just started investing seriously. He was putting money into a workplace retirement plan, opening a Roth IRA, funding an HSA, and even taking on extra weekend work, so most of that income could go toward retirement. His goal was to stop full-time work around 65, delay Social Security until later, and move somewhere with a much lower cost of living. The responses split almost immediately. Some people did the classic retirement math and said the goal was nowhere close. Others said the plan became much more realistic once you included Social Security, lower living costs, part-time work, and the fact that the portfolio might only need to carry the full load for a few years. That disagreement points to the real question. When you start late, the problem is not simply, how big can I make the account? The better question is, how much of my future life does that account actually need to pay for how long, and how flexible can I be if the first version of the plan does not work? That is the difference between a retirement number and a retirement system. The first thing a late starter has to accept is that savings rate matters more now than clever investing. At 25, time can do a huge amount of the work. At 53, time still matters, but there is less of it. You cannot safely solve that by chasing whatever investment had the best return last year. The late starter's advantage is usually not hidden in a better stock. It is hidden in the next paycheck. Suppose someone starts with almost nothing and invests $30,000 a year for 12 years. At an assumed 5% annual return, that grows to roughly $478,000. That is only an illustration, not a forecast, and actual returns will not arrive in a smooth line. But the lesson is simple. 12 years is not nothing. A high savings rate can still build a meaningful pool of money. Now stretch the same example from age 65 to 67. 2 more years of $30,000 contributions, plus 2 more years for the existing money to grow, takes that illustration to roughly $588,000. 2 years changed the result by more than $100,000. For someone who started at 23, 2 years may feel small. For someone who started at 53, 2 years can be a major lever. But this is where people often make the second mistake. They choose a monthly retirement income, multiply it by 25, and decide they either hit that giant portfolio number or fail. That can be useful as a rough screen. It is not the whole plan. If you want $4,500 a month from investments forever, the required portfolio is obviously much larger than if Social Security later covers part of the spending, a spouse has separate income, housing costs fall, or you continue earning a modest amount for a few years. The portfolio does not care what your original salary was. It only cares about the gap it has to fill. So a late starter should separate retirement spending into 3 layers. The first is the floor: housing, food, utilities, insurance, basic transportation, healthcare, and the boring things that keep life running. The second is lifestyle: travel, restaurants, hobbies, helping adult children, and the things you would like to do but can adjust. The third is the bridge, the temporary period between leaving full-time work and the moment other income sources begin. Those 3 layers should not be treated as one giant monthly number. Imagine someone wants to leave full-time work at 65, but plans to claim Social Security at 67. The portfolio may need to work much harder for those first 2 years than it does after 67. That is a bridge problem, not necessarily a 30-year problem. And if the retiree can earn even $1,500 or $2,000 a month from part-time work during that bridge, the pressure changes again. Not because part-time work is magical, because every dollar earned is a dollar the portfolio does not have to produce during a vulnerable period. This is why retirement does not have to happen like a light switch. A lot of people picture one final Friday. You work full-time, close the laptop, and from Monday morning onward, you never earn another dollar. That is one version of retirement. It is not the only one. A late starter can step down instead of step off. 3 days a week, seasonal work, 9 months a year, contract work when it suits you. A lower stress role that covers groceries and health insurance, while the retirement accounts get 2 more years to grow. The value of that income is bigger than the paycheck alone. It can delay withdrawals, delay Social Security, preserve benefits, and make a bad market year less dangerous. Of course, there is a catch. The bridge job has to exist. Building the entire plan around the assumption that you will easily find flexible work at 65 is not a plan. It is another guess. So the better approach is to build 2 versions. Version A assumes some earned income after 65. Version B assumes none. If version B collapses immediately, then your retirement date is still being held up by a job you do not yet have. The next lever is spending, and this is where the conversation becomes uncomfortable, because people often want investment returns to solve a lifestyle problem. A person starting late may not have enough time to build a $2 million portfolio, but they may have enough time to build a $600,000 portfolio and reduce the amount their life costs by $2,000 a month. That is not a small difference. Housing is usually the biggest example. Paying off a mortgage, downsizing, moving to a lower-cost state, or retiring abroad can completely change the required income. But "I am moving somewhere cheap" is not detailed enough. Cheap rent does not automatically mean a cheap retirement. You still need healthcare, insurance, visas, transportation, flights home, taxes, emergencies, and a plan for what happens if you or your spouse later need to live somewhere else. A low-cost country can be a powerful strategy. It can also become a trap if the plan only works while you are healthy, mobile, and willing to stay there forever. So price the real life, not the apartment listing. And this is where the answer becomes very different from the usual doom and gloom advice. Starting at 53 does not mean you need to recreate the retirement plan of someone who started at 25. You need to design a retirement that matches the assets you can realistically build from here. That may mean retiring later. It may mean spending less. It may mean earning a little. It may mean living somewhere cheaper. Usually, it is a combination. The strongest late start plan is rarely built on one heroic assumption. It is built on several ordinary levers working together. There is one more lever that does not show up neatly in a calculator: flexibility. 2 retirees can have the same portfolio and very different levels of safety. One insists on spending the same amount every year, no matter what markets do. The other can postpone a large trip, reduce optional spending for a year, work temporarily, or draw less once Social Security begins. The second person has options. Flexibility does not replace savings. Let's be clear about that.
but it can reduce the amount of protection you need against every possible bad scenario happening at once. The dangerous version of a late start plan is rigid. It assumes strong market returns, a precise retirement date, perfect health, a cheap location, a future job, a certain lifespan, and no major family emergency. Every assumption has to cooperate. That is, too fragile. A stronger plan asks what happens when one thing goes wrong. What if returns are disappointing for the first 5 years? What if you need to work until 67 instead of 65? What if the overseas move costs more than expected? What if one spouse dies first? What if you want to come home? You do not need to predict which problem will happen. You need enough room that one problem does not destroy the whole plan. So, if you are starting at 50, 53, or even later, here is the practical way I would think about it. First, calculate how much you can actually invest each year from now until your target date. Not what you hope to save, what you can repeat. Second, build your retirement budget from the floor up. Separate essential spending from optional spending. The number that matters is not your current salary. It is the future gap between reliable income and the life you want. Third, get real estimates for every source of guaranteed or semi-guaranteed income. Social Security for both spouses, pensions if you have them, any income that does not depend on selling investments that month. For people born in 1960 or later, full Social Security retirement age is 67, and benefits can generally be started earlier or delayed up to age 70, with the monthly amount changing based on timing. Fourth, price the bridge. If you stop full-time work at 65, but another major income source begins at 67, calculate those 2 years separately. Do not pretend the first 2 years and the next 28 are the same problem. Fifth, run the plan with a bad assumption on purpose. Lower returns, higher healthcare costs, no part-time job, a delayed move. You are not trying to scare yourself. You are looking for the assumption that is carrying too much weight.
And sixth, decide now what you would change first if the plan comes up short. Work 1 more year? Reduce the travel budget? Move earlier? Keep a small income? That decision is much easier to make calmly at 53 than desperately at 64. The worst response to starting late is giving up because the perfect retirement is no longer available. The second worst response is pretending everything will work because the market usually goes up over long periods. The useful response is more boring. Save hard, keep costs under control, use tax-advantaged accounts correctly. Avoid taking extra risk just because you feel behind. Build around the income you are likely to have, not the income you wish you had, and give yourself more than one way to finish the plan. You are not trying to win back the 30 years you did not invest. You are trying to make the next 12 count. And there is an interesting argument on the other side of all this. What if spending decades preparing for retirement creates a different mistake? What if, instead of waiting until 65 to enjoy the money, some people should take a 1 or 2 year mini-retirement in their 40s or 50s while they are still healthy enough to use the time? In the next video, we are going to look at exactly that question, including the career risk, the lost compounding, and whether a planned midlife break can ever make financial sense. For now, the question is simple. If you started retirement saving late, what changed your plan the most? Saving more, working longer, spending less, or changing where you plan to live? Put the real answer in the comments. Starting late is not the same as starting never.